from Nigeria, from Sudan, from South Africa, from Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand. So most of us want to learn to get the knowledge, and others are for professional reason. So we have 1 hour session. We invite you to present your lecture for 40 minutes. Then we open by 10 o'clock. So without further ado, we'll invite our dear sister, Associate Professor Dr. Noraini.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Brother Shahran, for the introduction. And also thank you to IIIT for giving me this opportunity to share our textbook to all. Okay, I would like to share my screen. Slide. Okay. Okay. Can you see my slide now, Brother Sharon?
We see it. Nice, very nice.
Okay. All right. So as mentioned by Brother Shahran, this particular sharing session comes from our textbook. So this textbook actually is published under IIIT. The title Accounting for Islamic Banks, and the authors will be Prof. Malia Sulaiman, myself, Noraini, Muhammad Arifin, and also Dr. Ros Aniza Muhammad Sharif. So 3 of us actually have written this textbook. And also as mentioned by Brother Sharan correctly, that this textbook has been used in our classes, not only at our university, International Islamic University in Malaysia, but also by students or by lecturers in other universities in Malaysia. Okay, mainly to support their subject on accounting for Islamic banks, right? So I'm not sure Prof. Malia also inside the list of participants today, but she told me that she also would like to join to the session. So if she's around, then maybe she can also assist me in sharing this particular textbook. Okay. So I also would like to take this opportunity to thank IIIT for giving us the opportunity to publish our book with IIIT, and hopefully this book can be also relevant to other universities, not only in Malaysia, but we also would like to extend maybe to universities outside Malaysia. Okay. So mainly, this actually the content for the book to be covered in 7 weeks for this Accounting for Islamic Bank session. So this week, inshallah, I will cover Islamic financial system and Islamic financial contracts. Then the following week, we will have Islamic accounting, conceptual and regulatory framework, and then followed by general presentation, disclosure requirements, and accounting for Islamic deposit. Then in week 4, we're going to cover accounting for mudarabah and musyarakah. Week 5, accounting for murabahah and ijarah. And week 6, accounting for salam and istisna. Week 7, accounting for zakat. Okay, so if you refer to the title of the book, the title is actually Accounting for Islamic Banks. So what you expect in this book will cover accounting and reporting of current Islamic banking products, which align with the standard promulgated by IOFI in particular. So we will be also discussing how IOFI accounting auditing of Islamic financial institutions based in Bahrain, how the accounting standard are used in reporting Islamic banking products in general. At the same time, I think the book also will include discussion with the relevant Malaysian financial reporting standards, as what we are focusing this book actually for Malaysian Islamic Bank at the moment. But again, there's not also wrong to be used by other countries outside Malaysia, because MFRS also actually is IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standard. So the country that also use IFRS somehow can also refer to our textbook for the reference when teaching this accounting for Islamic banks. Okay. So at the same time, I think we also cover guidelines by the Central Bank of Malaysia, Bank Negara, inside the textbook. So what we also hope this book will be useful for the teaching of accounting for Islamic banks in countries that adopt EOFI standards, as well as those following IFRS. So what we believe that this book is not only relevant for Malaysian environment, but can also be applied to international environment. Other countries that also use EOFI standards, as well as following international financial reporting standards. Okay. So I think the university or those institutions that have similar course on accounting for Islamic bank or reporting in Islamic banking institution, perhaps can also use our book as one of the references for you to teach the course in your universities. So this is what we hope when we started writing this book to be published later. So we hope that this book not only useful in Malaysia, but also be useful internationally. Okay. Okay. Mainly my part for this week, just to introduce the two chapters in this book, chapter 1 and chapter 2. So chapter 1 actually focusing on Islamic financial system, and chapter 2 is actually Islamic financial contracts. So these are the first two chapters in the book. And I think every week what we'll do, we will be discussing the chapters after that in each week. So that's how we plan to cover in this book. Okay. So mainly the first chapter actually Islamic financial system in the book. This chapter, what we expect at the end of the chapter, the student will be able to discuss the underlying Islamic economics principle and also Islamic financial system, and to explain the meaning and concept of riba, gharar and maisir, elaborate the nature and development of Islamic banking in not only Malaysia but internationally, describe the differences between Islamic and conventional banks, and evaluate the accounting implications. Okay. So even though what you can understand, the title of the book is actually accounting for Islamic banks, but we are in the opinion that before we go or before we discuss this accounting perspective, it's also important to introduce the Islamic financial system first to the students. Then later only we will relate to the accounting implications of the standards or how to account for the Islamic banking products. Okay, so that's why the first two chapters are not really covering accounting yet, but we are just focusing on the introduction to the system, introduction to banking, introduction to the system, introduction to the contracts. Then only chapter 3. Only in chapter 3 we will be discussing the first chapter on accounting in the book. Okay, so I think the first chapter will be very general, and perhaps also has been covered by other presenter in other session talking about the Islamic financial system in general, which is also understood by all, that there's no payment or receipt of interest in the Islamic financial system. So meaning that we will be expecting there's no interest and also no both are no payment and also no receipt of interest in the Islamic financial system. And this also supported by the verses in the Quran. We have Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 278 and 279 that talk about the provision of interest. Okay, and what we can say from this verse also mention clearly that if you do not, then be one of war against Allah and His Messenger. And if you repent, then you have your principle without interest, and you shall not be wrong. You shall not be wrong. So this actually mentioned clearly in this surah, talking about the importance of provision of interest. So what we would be expecting the Islamic financial system encourage resharing and emphasize on the importance of contracts. Okay, so in general, what we can conclude from here, the Islamic financial system must comply with Sharia. So this is actually what you will expect from the Islamic financial system. So the characteristic of Islamic financial system, free from riba, okay, and then free from garar fahish. Garar fahish actually major garar, because when we talk about garar in my next slide, we'll be also discussing there are two types of garar, either garar major garar or minor. So in general, we will be referring to the major one, garar fahish, okay, and also free from maisir, no gambling in the Islamic financial system. And at the end of the day, you will expect that a system grounded on moral and ethical framework of Sharia. Okay? So this is actually very general. I'm just talking about general about Islamic financial system in our book. So I think we start by discussing what are riba, what is riba, what is gara, and what is maisir. At the same time, also we talk about the importance of Sharia compliance in the Islamic financial system. Okay, but need to understand here, this book only covering Islamic bank because the title only accounting for Islamic bank. So we will not be discussing other institution other than Islamic bank. What you can see when talking about Islamic financial system, they also will have takaful, and also maybe a wakaf, a zakat. So that one actually not part of the focus of this book at the moment. So because the focus only accounting for the Islamic banks. Okay, so in the book also we talk about the types of riba. We have these two types of riba in general, riba al-fad and riba al-nasiyah. So I think this also just revision or just reminder to those who already know about this. So the first riba talking about excess, and the second riba talking about the exchange. Okay, so there shouldn't be any any increase when there's a deferment of completion of an exchange. And the first type talking about the excess lah. There should not be any excess when we have the change or the exchange counter values. And normally they talk about these 6 commodities: gold, silver, dates, wheat, salt, and barley. So they talk about must be on the spot and must be equal. So when there's an exchange of gold and gold must be spot and also must be equal. So unequal sale of this commodity with similar commodity will constitute riba. So if, for example, 2 kilogram of low quality rice for 1 kilogram of high quality rice, then we're talking about rice and rice. So this also what also discussed in the first type of riba. Then the second riba talking about the exchange. So meaning that whenever there's exchange, so there shouldn't be an increase for the amount to be paid later. For example, a loan of $100 for a deferred repayment of 110 a year later. So this is not allowed because the 10 is considered as riba, because just the borrowing, the person borrow $100, but the person need to pay back 110. So this actually what discussed under this second type of riba, riba al-nasiyah here. Okay, then we also discuss about garar. ambiguity or uncertainty, which may lead to fraud. So this also what we what will be hoping that in the Islamic financial system there's no gharar. Everything must be clear. So whenever there is a contract between the two parties, everything must be clear in the contract so that there will be no dispute in the future. So this gharar should not exist like in the contract in the Islamic financial system, because gharar can lead the contract become non-executable at the end. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, there are two types of gharar: gharar yasir and gharar fahish. The former may be tolerated and will not invalidate the contract, while the latter will not be acceptable and may result in the contract being void. So this actually the type of gharar. Okay, and the third one, we are talking about prohibition of maisir. So maisir will be gambling. So any form of business activity where monetary gains are derived from mere chance, speculation and conjecture instead of productive activity. Islam, however, does not prohibit the ordinary commercial speculation involved in a business enterprise, because commercial risk-taking is an integral part of Islamic finance transactions. Okay. So risk management actually is not somehow gambling, because that one we will manage for the risk. But we are talking about is the mere chance. The gain is earned without any activity or any productive activity. So this also will not be allowed from the Sharia perspective. Okay, so that will be the three type of provision that we discussed at the beginning of our textbook, talking about the Islamic financial system, the no riba, no gara, and no maisir. Then only we discuss the bank. Okay. So in the book, we did mention clearly that the bank is a financial intermediary. So whatever transaction in the bank actually is between the two parties. And the parties actually the surplus unit and also the deficit units, and bank is in the middle. So this what is bank is all about when we discuss about bank in the book. So there will be surplus unit here, meaning that the customer that have excess cash, so they will go to the bank and deposit or invest their money. And this can be either individuals, businesses, or government. And at the other side, we will have the deficit units, meaning that the customer who need cash. And this can also be either individuals, businesses, or government. So what they will do, they will go to the bank to get the financing. Okay. So what you can see from the accounting perspective, you will have the liability this side, meaning that whatever the surplus unit bring to the bank become the liabilities to the bank, and whatever the deficit units obtained from the bank will become the asset to the bank. And we will have return on financing this side, meaning that the bank will have some return from this financing based on the syarah contract that the bank use. And at the same time, from this side, the bank need to pay return on investment to the customer. And for the deposit or for the saving, I think the bank will also pay some hibah or some gift to the customer. So this way, what you can see that the difference between these two will be the return to the bank. Okay. So the bank only make profit from the difference between return on financing and return on investment and savings. That's why when come to the bank is just intermediary. That's all. Just intermediate. The money belong to the bank. Actually, the money come from the customers. It's not belong to the bank. Whatever we have in the bank, the cash actually belong to the customer, but this money be used by these customers. So this way you will see like the operation of the bank as a financial intermediary. Okay. So definition of the bank in general, the bank actually the business of receiving deposit on current account, deposit account, saving account or other similar account, paying and collecting checks drawn by or paid in by customers and provision of finance, and also other business that the bank, which is Bank Negara Malaysia or Central Bank of Malaysia, with the approval of the ministry may prescribe. Okay. So this actually definition of bank. In Malaysia or in general, we will have a few types of banks. For example, when I refer to Malaysia, what we have the commercial banks, Islamic banks, international Islamic banks, investment banks, and development financial institutions. Okay. So most of the time we focusing here on the Islamic bank. So this come from Bank Negara website here talking about the different type of bank. Commercial bank, I think what happened in Malaysia, we have 26 commercial bank. We have 16 Islamic bank, 16 Islamic banks. We only have one international Islamic bank, which is the Bank Muamalat Indonesia. That's the only international Islamic bank in Malaysia. Investment bank, we also have few. I think we have about 11 investment bank. The bank that have the name investment, CIMB Investment, Maybank Investment, Hong Leong Investment, these are all under category investment bank. Mean that they will not accept normal transaction, but they will only monitor investment. And at the same time, in Malaysia, we also have development financial institutions, where we have 6. We have, just to share, in Malaysia, we have Bank Rakyat, SME Bank, Azim Bank, Bank Pembangunan Malaysia Berhad, Agro Bank, and Bank Simpanan Nasional. So this DFI or Development Financial Institution will have special mandate by the government. So they will not similar to normal commercial bank, but their mandate will be based on the purpose of the bank. For example, when you talk agro bank will focus more on agriculture. SME will focus more on small medium enterprise businesses. Bank Pembangunan will focus on corporate transaction, corporate customers. Bank Rakyat more towards on the giving the personal financing to the customer, and I think Bank Rakyat is registered under cooperative at the end. And at the same time, we also have this Bank Simpanan Nasional. BSN will be focusing on the rural areas. That's actually what we can see from that types of banks. So, okay, so from the Islamic perspective, Islamic bank, the definition of an Islamic bank actually being banking business whose aims and operations do not involve any element which is not approved by the religion of Islam. So this actually what is the meaning of an Islamic bank. And under our act in Malaysia, Islamic Financial Services Act 2013, Islamic banking business is defined as accepting Islamic deposit, accepting money under investment, provision of finance, and other business as prescribed by the Ministry of Finance. So this actually the operation of the Islamic bank. So this book will try to, inshallah, account for the deposit, investment, and financing. So that's the focus of the textbook, covering the 3 parts of the businesses in the Islamic bank. Okay, so moving towards the development of Islamic bank in general, this actually from the international perspective. We will have the first Islamic bank actually meet Gam Local Bank in 1963. Then we have Nasser Social Bank in Egypt 1971. Then after that we have Dalal Al-Barakah, Islamic Development Bank Jeddah, Dubai Islamic Bank, Faisal Islamic Bank, Jordan, Bahrain. And then in Malaysia, we started with the Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad in 1983. Then we have Bank Muamalat. And then in 2006, I think Malaysia, Bank Negara give license to international or foreign Islamic bank to start their operation in Malaysia. So in 2006, we have Quick Finance House as well as this RIG, having their operation in Malaysia. Okay. So in Malaysia, what I would like to share here, the Islamic institution actually started in 1963, where we have this program and fund management board provide a saving mechanism for Muslims to perform Hajj. Okay. So we have Tabung Haji started in 1963. Then in 1983, we have the Islamic Banking Act for the first time, where in this 1983 also in Malaysia we have the first Islamic bank, Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad. Okay. Then 1983 we have this Government Investment Act that allowed the government to issue government investment certificate in the form of hibah rather than interest. 1993, I think in Malaysia we have this commercial bank that operate Islamic banking and financial product. What we know in Malaysia, scheme perbankan tanpa faedah. This actually where the commercial banks can have or can open business on Islamic banking. So meaning that they can also offer Islamic banking product in commercial bank. Okay, so this what happened in 1993. So what you can see that in Malaysia, I also can see that other countries also they are practicing this dual banking system. Islamic banking run parallel with the commercial banking. We have both like Islamic bank and also commercial bank. In Malaysia, if we want to understand, it's very strongly, very highly regulated the banking system, including Islamic bank. Mainly governed and regulated by Central Bank of Malaysia, Bank Negara. And we have also few framework to be used by Islamic Bank in Malaysia. Bafia Banking and Financial Institution Act 1989 actually govern commercial bank. Islamic Banking Act 1983 govern Islamic Bank, and Takaful Act 1984 govern Takaful. But what happened in 2013, these two acts has been withdrawn when Bank Negara issue one act, Islamic Financial Services Act 2013. So the word in red here no longer used in Malaysia because we have IFSA 2013. Then even Company Act 1965 also we don't have anymore. We have Company Act 2016. So this also changed also the Companies Act. And we also have for financial reporting, we have two guidelines issued by Bank Negara. Number one is financial reporting for Islamic banking institution, and the second one, financial reporting for takaful operators. Okay, so this is the two guidelines. Okay, just sharing with all the participants tonight the type of bank that we have in Malaysia. This just the commercial, this just Islamic bank because when we look at the type we have commercial bank, we have Islamic bank, investment bank, DFI, development finance institution. But what I'm going to share on the Islamic bank, so we have 16 Islamic bank in Malaysia. So the 16 actually 3 full-fledged, Bank Islam and Bank Muamalat, and also MBSB Bank. These are new one become full-fledged 2 years ago, MBSB Bank. Okay. And we also have in Malaysia 8 Islamic banking subsidiaries. This bank is no longer window. Last time we have Islamic windows. Now I think all these local bank has opened their own Islamic banking subsidiaries. The first one is CIMB Islamic Bank, and then the latest one Public Islamic Bank. So what you can see from this list in Malaysia, most of the local bank, local commercial bank here have opened the Islamic banking subsidiaries, and the total is 8 in Malaysia. Okay, and in Malaysia we also have foreign commercial bank Islamic subsidiaries, meaning that these three actually come from other countries, but they have their Islamic subsidiary in Malaysia. So we have HSBC Amanah, OCBC Al-Amin, and also Standard Chartered Sadiq. So these are the 3 commercial commercial bank, foreign, but they have their Islamic subsidiary in Malaysia. So this, we have 3 here for this bank. And we have 2 foreign full-fledged Islamic bank, Araji and Kuwait Finance House. Previously, we have Asian Finance Bank, but Asian Finance Bank has merged with MBSB and become MBSB Bank, full-fledged MBSB Bank. So we don't have any more Asian Finance. So that gives the total of 16. Like if you total up all this, so we have 3 full-fledged, 8 subsidiaries, so 11. We have 3 foreign, 14. And we have 2 foreign full-fledged Islamic bank that give the total of 16 Islamic banks in Malaysia. Okay, so the first chapter ends with the discussion on the accounting implications in general before we go into detail in the next chapters. So what we discussed in this first chapter, we discussed that most of the transaction accounted using IFRS, and some argue that Islamic banks should be using a separate set of Islamic accounting standards. So we have a different opinion which standard is the best standard to be used by Islamic bank. Okay. In Malaysia, Malaysian Accounting Standard Board require bank to adopt MFRS in their reporting. Okay, so I think this discussion will not stop here, but we are still discussing this issue, whether we need another standard for Islamic bank or whether this IFRS can also be used for Islamic banks. So these are the issues that we try also to discuss in the following chapters. Okay. And we also take note the effort by YOFI, Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Institutions here, in developing standard on accounting, auditing, governance, ethics, and also Sharia standard. So I think they also have done a very good job in coming up with all these standards, and whether we are able to apply the standard, so we can also discuss that later in the following chapters. Okay. Okay. So mainly there are 2 issues here. Whether time value of money also can be an issue, and also substance over form. So mainly when we talk about the use of the standard, these 2 issues need to be discussed. So what? Because when you talk about time value of money, some scholars believe that the time value of money is inappropriate to reflect an Islamic financial transactions, since such transactions do not attract any interest. However, others believe that although charging interest on loan is prohibited, recording the effect of a transaction will actually provide more useful information to users. Okay. What happened in Malaysia? The Sharia Advisory Council of Central Bank of Malaysia in 2007 concluded that the time value of money is allowed in Islam for exchange contracts where it involves future payments, but not for loan or card contracts. Okay. So card cannot use time value of money, but the other contract, for example, murabahah, tawaruk, according to this ruling, time value of money is allowed for that type of exchange contract. Okay. And the second issue, we talk about substance over form. Which one should come first, substance or form? Okay. This actually very relevant when we discuss about ijarah or accounting for ijarah. Ijarah is actually Islamic leasing. So in future chapters, we'll be discussing on accounting for ijarah, whether the asset should be reported in the book of the lessee or in the book of lessor. Because when you use substance over form, the asset will be reported in the book of lessee. Because the asset has been transferred to the lessee. So in substance, the asset being used by the lessee, the owner still the lessor, but substance over form meaning that the asset will be reported in the book of lessee. But in YOFI, they actually discussing about form over substance. because when it comes to leasing or ijarah, the asset still owned by the lessor. So by right, the lessor should record the asset in the book of the lessor. So this is also another issue that we can also discuss later when we cover the topic of ijarah. According to Syariah Advisory Council of the Central Bank of Malaysia, substance and form are both important in Islam and should align with each other. However, if there is a conflict, then substance will prevail. So this is actually the ruling by SAC of Central Bank of Malaysia. Okay, so this is the coverage for the first chapter, chapter 1. Then in chapter 2, we discuss about Islamic financial contracts. Okay, so in this chapter, we discuss about the modus operandi of Islamic bank, function of Islamic bank, various type of deposit, investment of Islamic banks, and describe the characteristic of Islamic financial instruments. So this is actually our coverage for the second chapter. So mainly for the second chapter, we are just discussing about all these contracts that will be used in Islamic banks. Deposit and investment, mainly, sorry about the error there. So this one, deposit and investment. Okay. So for deposit investment, the Islamic financial contract that the Islamic bank normally use will be al-wadi'ah, tawarruk, and also qard. That's the deposit side. Investment mainly mudarabah and wakalah. For the financing, under sale type murabahah, tawarruk, salam, istisna, and buy bitaman ajil. For the leasing ijarah, can be either ijarah muntahiyah bitamlik or ijarah summa al-bai, ITAB. And for the investment will be mudarabah and musyarakah. So what happened in this second chapter, we are just discussing the meaning of all these Islamic financial contracts. But whenever we cover the accounting for this contract, we will be also revisit again the definition of the syarah contracts in our textbook. So I think at this point, what I can share with you, these are most of the contract used in Malaysia, Islamic bank, in Malaysian Islamic banks, from the deposit side, investment side, and also the financing side. Okay. So, Brother Shahran, I think that's the end of my presentation. How to start it.
Okay, Doctor. Thank you so much. You can ask through the chat room, or you can raise hand. I saw a few hands there. I will unmute one by one. Let's try Brother Mirza Nur Rahman.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullah.
Assalamualaikum.
This is Mirza Nur Rahman from Bangladesh.
Okay.
Thanks, madam, for the insightful presentation. Actually, I want to know what is the difference, the traditional banking and the Islamic banking. The general people say that traditional banking and Islamic banking, there is no difference. All are interest based. The people who are in general educated, they think that traditional banking and Islamic banking are same. Islamic banking, there is nothing in, but you know, what is your opinion, please?
I can't hear you properly, sorry.
The difference between traditional and Islamic banking, conventional
okay.
and Islamic banking.
Okay.
Yes, brother.
Okay. What I can answer, because when we talk about this two type of banking system, we have commercial bank and also Islamic bank. Okay, talking about traditional bank and also Islamic bank. From the customer perspective, maybe we will not be able to see the differences too much because they will just go to the bank and get the money or deposit their money into the bank. So I think from the customer will not be able to see much differences. But if you are in the bank, you will be able to see the Islamic bank is totally different from the commercial bank. Because in Islamic bank, mainly number one, the contracts, we have having all the Sharia contracts, and all the Sharia contracts also need to go from the Sharia committee in that particular Islamic bank. Okay, and the second one, sorry. Okay. And the second one, I think when you talk about the transaction, I think the transaction also must comply with Sharia. I think this actually in the Islamic bank itself, they will be able to see there are so much differences between the operation Islamic bank and conventional bank. And the other part that I would like to stress with zakat, because all Islamic bank pay zakat, that make a big difference between the commercial bank, because commercial bank is not required to pay zakat, but Islamic bank must pay zakat. So that mainly the main difference between the two, like Islamic bank and traditional bank, as your question being posed just now.
Okay. Try to unmute his brother Salihu, but it doesn't work. Okay, brother Afrad.
Okay, thank you, Brother Safran. Assalamualaikum, Prof.
Hello.
Yeah, my name is Afrad. I'm from Tazkia, Indonesia.
Okay.
In the presentation, it is said that there are 3 types of impermissible transaction, that is riba, gharar, and maisir. While on the other hand, based on Professor Yusuf Subaili, I think he is one of Sharia advisor in CIMB Niaga. In his lecture article in University of Imam Muhammad Saud, he said that there are 3 kind of impermissible transaction, that is riba, gharar, and zolim. He include the maisir into gharar and add zolim, because for example there are a type of a zolim contract where somebody cannot buy through murabahah contract goods or commodities that is not allowed in Islam, such as pork and alcohol and others. Pork, alcohol, and others unallowed good in Islam is not covered in the riba, gharar, and maisir type of transaction. Please share us your comment, Prof. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I'm agreeing with your statement. So I think what we have included in the book just the 3 main provision: riba, gharar, and maisir. But based on my experience in the Islamic bank as well as advising the Islamic bank, what we also do is also based on what you mentioned just now. We cannot involve in all the transactions that have these Sharia non-compliant activities. For example, liquor, pork, and also liquor, pork, and tobacco, for example. So we include all also in our decision when we decide on whether we want to give the financing to this customer, or whether we want to approve the contract. We also go beyond the riba, gharar, and maisir. But what we mentioned in the book just that general 3. So I don't have problem with your statement. I think I agree 100% with your statement. Thank you.
The Aminul Islam.
Yeah. Assalamualaikum. I am from Bangladesh. I am working at Islamic Bank Bangladesh Limited, Dhaka. And very thanks to Professor for her nice presentation. I want to know from her Under her presentation, she tells Islamic financial contract under deposit. She mentioned al-Adia, Tawarruk, and Qard. We also know deposits under deposit Mudaraba. We know Mudaraba is also include deposit. I want to her comments on this issue. Ms. Professor, please.
Okay, thank you, Brother Aminul Islam, right? Okay, yes, I think based on my slide, I only mentioned 3 contracts under deposit, Tawarruk, Qard, and also Wadi'ah. And what happened for Mudarabah, we put this under investment contract. It's not deposit contract, it's under investment contracts. Before 2013, before our new Islamic Financial Services Act being issued by Central Bank of Malaysia, Mudarabah also under deposit. We have Mudarabah deposit, which will not be really correct because when we put under deposit, then it's guaranteed by Deposit Scheme in Malaysia, PIDM, and it's not really Syara compliant in that perspective for that Mudarabah deposit. That's why when Negara issued the new act, Bank Negara really differentiate between deposit and investments. Deposit still guaranteed by the Deposit Insurance Scheme PIDM in Malaysia, but investment is no longer guaranteed. Because to have the true Mudarabah, because the Mudarabah actually profit sharing contract. So if there's a loss borne by the Rabbul Mal, the capital providers. So if you put the Mudarabah and the deposit, then somehow that will defeat the true meaning of Mudarabah. That's why what we have been using in Malaysia, we put totally Mudarabah under investment. It's no longer under deposit.
Okay, Brother Abu Sufyan.
Yes, please. Okay, Assalamualaikum, Prof.
Waalaikumsalam.
Please, I'm Abu Sufyan Sharif from Ghana, student of IIUM, Economics Department.
Ahlan wa sahlan.
Please, I want to know the first rising of this digital currency, that is Bitcoin in the family, on Islamic banking.
Bitcoin.
Sorry?
The first rising of digital currency, maybe like just example, Bitcoin in the family, on Islamic banking.
Very advanced question from you, brother. Bitcoin, because I'm not the Syara scholar to really discuss on that issue in Islamic banking. Because at the moment, I think in Malaysia, in Islamic banking in Malaysia, we are not yet involved in this Bitcoin for the Islamic bank. So to be fair, I think I don't have the answer for your question. And maybe Syariah scholar will be able to answer your question rather than I'm not a Syariah scholar, so I think I'm worried that I will give the wrong fatwa.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Brother Abdul Ghani.
Assalamualaikum, Professor.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm Abdul Ghani from Nigeria. Okay. Ma'am, please, can an Islamic bank collaborate with a conventional bank to finance a customer in the, can I say, in istisna or like other financial contract like that?
Okay, thank you for the question. In my opinion, based on my experience in Islamic bank, in Malaysia, we didn't have that collaboration between conventional and Islamic bank to finance one project. What we'll be having normally, we will have the collaboration between the two Islamic bank, Islamic Bank A and Islamic Bank B. For example, it's a mega project. So one Islamic bank is not able to cater the whole project. So normally we will have like what we call syndicate financing, where we have 2 or 3 banks come into the picture and finance one project. But never happened in our activity that we collaborate with the commercial bank. I don't think that is allowed from Sharia to have this kind of merging, because to ensure Sharia compliant, I think both institutions must be comply with Sharia.
Ada Tijani. Ada Tijani Muhammad.
Where are you? Okay. Tijani Muhammad. I can't hear you.
Ada. Okay. Okay, Prof, we have 5 more minutes. Maybe you have a last point.
Assalamualaikum.
Yeah, betul Tijani. Go ahead.
Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi.
Salihu from Nigeria.
Okay.
I want to ask a question about the riba al-fadl. Only six items have been identified. Can we generalize to include other items such as the sorghum, millet, and other things?
Oh, okay. Thank you for the question. Again, I think very advanced question for me to answer. I think this question is best to be addressed to the Syarah scholar. I don't have the answer as for your question, brother, but based on that, hadith, we talk about only that ribawi items. So that actually what we have in that particular, prohibited, the riba item that not to be exchanged if not equal. So if you want to extend or generalize to other items, I think I need Sharia scholar to assist me to answer that, whether it's allowed or not allowed. I'm accounting. I'm accounting background, so I'm not a Sharia scholar. So, but again, it's a good question. Maybe I can also get the Sharia scholar to answer your question later.
Okay, Prof, maybe a summary for today, 3-4 minutes before we close.
Okay. So I can see some hand also, more hands, but due to I think the host is not able to accept any more questions. But I think in general, what we are hoping that our textbook will be able to explain this accounting for Islamic banks. And today's session, we are just focusing on the introduction to the book, talking about generally the Islamic system, Islamic franchise system. And then I think even in the book, we started by discussing Islamic economics first, because everything comes from the Islamic umbrella of Islamic economics. Then we have the Islamic franchise system. Then we talk about the development of the Islamic banking, the guideline, the regulation for Islamic banking, and the accounting application. And I have ended my presentation today by covering the Islamic contract or Sharia contract that have been used in the Islamic banking transactions. So mainly this is what I can share today for our first session. Hopefully somehow it can benefit some of you, whether directly or indirectly. So thank you very much for your attendance today, and thank you to Brother Shahran for hosting this session. Okay, Brother Shahran.
Thank you so much, Prof. I will share the email of Prof. Noraini and other instructors. So you have any detailed question or any inquiry, you can email her privately. So inshallah, we end tonight. We'll see everyone tomorrow again at 5 o'clock and 9 o'clock. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.